Hello and welcome to this festive Power Apps for Kids tutorial. This is going to be interesting. I've made the app already. The idea is I've got a lovely image here, and because Santa is coming, we want to turn the lights out, and as the lights are turned out, then Santa appears. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump across into the final version and then talk about how it kind of works. So I'm in the app right now and I need to turn out the lights, so I just start clicking and clicking and clicking. Notice that the text disappeared at the top there. I keep clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, and finally Santa appears. And that's really the end of this. I could put a Merry Christmas thing, and there's lots of ways to enhance it, but the idea is we've gone through a process and Santa has appeared on the screen. I guess we probably should have a Merry Christmas maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the presentation, talk about the sorts of things that we're going to discover in this, and then we'll start building it from scratch. So the things that we're actually going to learn in this session are, we're going to learn about, it's going to be a Christmas greeting. That's what we're doing in this case. We're going to be bringing in images. In fact, there's only two images in this whole thing. There's the background image and there's the Santa image as well. We're going to be using variables to make things turn on and off, and we may even move to using collections later on. There is a timer, and the timer is really important. It's because it's the thing that helps Santa to appear from the background, so it's quite a neat little thing to be able to do. Finally, we might use an alternative way of getting the buttons to show and hide. We'll see how we get on with that. So right now I'm going to move back to the app and I'm going to start showing you some of the elements of the app that we'll be building. So we're now in the app. We are in the editor. In fact, I can show you that we're in the editor. So if I go like that, we can see all the different elements that are in here. And there are these kind of strange invisible buttons. So if I do Control and then click on that, I probably need to use the editor experience. But you can see there's different buttons all across here. And in fact, the colors for the buttons only show when they're pressed. And there's a particular way in which I've done that. So there's just a bunch of buttons on here, and there's a timer that fires when all of the buttons have been pressed, and then as a result of that, Santa appears from nowhere and then appears on the screen. One of the other cool things on here is that we have a shading that takes place. So each time that we click on a button, things get a little bit dark, and I might leave that for you to bring in yourself rather than doing the main part of the build process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build this completely from scratch. So what I need to do is I need to go to make.powerapps.com, I need to do new app, I need to go canvas, and then that's going to fire things up for me. I need to tell it to do a tablet layout app. That means it's going to be nice and wide and big for me, because the alternative is to make it a phone app. I'm on the screen here, and now what I need is a background image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to github.com and it's /Power Apps for Kids, because I've got some images in here that I can use. So I'm going to go to this repository here, and there's a couple of ways of getting these images. I'm going to go to media, and I'm going to go down, and I have some images here. There's my Santa sleigh. That's not my background, but that's the Santa sleigh there. In fact, what I'll do is, to keep it simple, I'm just going to click on it and I'm going to download that, and it'll just download onto my machine somewhere. So in fact, I don't feel like it quite downloaded on that occasion. It just seemed to go into it, but I think it's maybe just because it's not showing, but that's okay. So I'll click the back button on that and then back again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to there's my Christmas mountain there. So I think it's because I've done F11 that I can't quite see everything here. Okay, and now I'm going to click on the download option for this. So click on download, and I think that will have downloaded. It's not really that obvious that it has. And then what I'm going to do is move back to the app, and I need to go onto the background image where it says none. I can click the drop down, click and add an image file, and then I'm going to go to my downloads. And I don't know if this is coming correctly, but if it doesn't, then there is an alternative way of doing it. In fact, you might find it's just as easy to right click on it and do save image as, and then you'll be able to get your image downloaded to the place that you need it to be downloaded to. So I'm going to click save on that, and then come off there, and then I'm also going to go onto the sleigh, click on that, go onto the image, right click on the image, save the image as, and then click on that. And then I will move back to my app, go onto the background image, click to add an image file, and then go to my downloads, and I can click on this Christmas Mountain vector pouch free pick. So the person that created this has got the handle of a vector pouch. So I've brought that in. Now the image position is fit. What that means is you'll get the entire image, but what we're going to do is we're going to change that to be fill. So it's going to take up the entire room on here. And as we're here, I'm also going to bring that media in. I'm going to bring in the image of Santa, just so we can use it later on. So there's Santa sleigh there, click open on that, and then that's brought into our app. Now we can bring it, I don't know if we can drag it onto the screen. I've never actually done that before. Drag it onto the screen. So you can see that we can drag that on. Santa's a little bit big there, he'll be in the water, and so there we go, he's on the screen. So that's the kind of start point that we've got. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a label, and then what I'm actually going to do, because this is quite dark and I know that I need everything to be dark, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the theme, go to home and then go to theme, and then go to and make it a dark theme, because what that will really mean is that all my text will go white. So that's just kind of a safe way of me getting all that text white. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm on the text property, I'm going to center it. I'm going to move the size up to maybe 25, and then I'm going to say, shh, Santa is coming, turn out the lights. So I'll keep this sort of simple to begin with. So let's make that maybe 40. How does that look? So we could play around with the fonts. You can spend a long time doing this sort of thing, and just to make it absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do is, just to begin with, we'll make it really simple and we're just going to turn out the lights in the actual house. So that's quite a big image there. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to deliberately use a label. So normally you'd use a button for this sort of thing, but we're actually going to use a label, and the reason for that is because the buttons have got lots of different colors. So when you hover over it, it's got a color, when you press it, it's got another color, and you have to change all of those bits and pieces. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to go over the top of that window there, and I'm going to do I'm going to put the text as 1. Just going to keep it simple. In fact, that text isn't going to be visible. So what I'm going to do, and there's a reason why I'm going to make the text so that it's not visible. So later on it may become clearer. So if you type in color, that is the color of the text. So if I do call it transparent, then that will mean it will go invisible. So we'll never see that text on here ever. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the fill property, and I'm going to make that blue. I'm just going to make it blue so we can see that it's actually in the way. Now that's clearly not what we want. What we want to do is we want it to be the absolute kind of perfect colour for this little spot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my faithful friend PowerPoint, because that allows me to that will allow me to choose the right colour. So and what I'm going to do is fire that up and go onto a blank presentation, and then I will do I'll insert a picture, and it'll use the picture from before. So I will do this device, and hopefully we will get to my downloads, and there's my Christmas mountain. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I need to pick out a colour that is useful to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the colour I need is roughly the colour just below the window. So what I need to do is I go onto here and I just type in background, format background, and I'll then go to the colour and then go to the eyedropper. This is my long-winded way of getting there. And if I click on that, that's the colour I need. In fact, I'm just going to do that again because I just noticed that it actually tells you the values. So can you see 69, 79, 162. 69, 79, 162. 69, 79, 162. That's the colour that we need. So if I go back to Power Apps and the fill property here, I do RGBA, and then I need to do 69, 79, 162, and then I think it's 1. Because we need to do the transparency and so on, then what you'll find is that is a very, very good match for covering up that window, because it's the colour just below there. So we can see that works quite nicely. So that's a good start, but what I really want to do is I want to make it so that sometimes it's transparent and sometimes it's not transparent. So the way in which I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to the on select. And so on select, I'm going to say set GV and what I'm trying to do is to have a variable to do with the first window. So I'm going to call it window 1 to be, and I think I might use the self.text thing here. So self.text, and what that means is it's going to be 1. So I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll see how that goes. In fact, no, I'm going to make it set to be, I'm going to make it actually 1. So it's going to be on select set GV window to be 1. Now, what the idea with this is that we are going to make it show and hide based on whether or not it's been selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, just put the label in there, and I'm just put GV window 1. So at the moment it's got no value, and when I click on it, it's got a value of 1. But what I want to do is want to kind of swap between them. So if it's a 1, it then goes to 0, and if it's a 0, it needs to go to 1. So I'm then going to do an if statement. So if GV window equals 1, then set GV window equals to be 0. Otherwise, if GV window equals 1, otherwise set GV window to be 0. I should get away with closing the bracket on that. In fact, GV window, in fact, have I spelt it incorrectly? It doesn't love me at the moment. I think I need to close the brackets, and then it's nice and happy with me. So what should happen is that as we click on it, that we'll go from a 0 to 1. In fact, I've done it incorrectly, sadly. And the error is here that in both cases I told it to set it to be 0. So what that should do now is it should flick me between a 1 and a 0, 1 and a 0. That's what I wanted to do there. Now the reason I want to do that is because I want to go to the fill property here, because what I want to do here is I want to use the value property here. So let's just try GV window. GV window. Now I think it's going to be the opposite way around to what I need it to be. So when it says 0, yeah, so when it's clicked, oh, that's perfect. So essentially when it's not clicked, I'm basically flicking it between being visible and not being visible. So the idea is that in this case we're going to turn out these 2 windows. Once the 2 windows turn out, then Santa will appear. We're not going to do it for all of the windows because that's something that you can do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a copy and paste of this. I just did a Control-C and Control-V, and I'll pop that over there. And notice what happens here. They're both going to appear and disappear. That's not really what I wanted here. What I want to do is I want to have this, I want to have one for each one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the text of that to 2 anyway. And what I'm going to do is on select, if GV window, and I'm just going to change it to be 2 and 2 and 2. And then the other thing that I need to do is I need to go onto the fill property, and it needs to be the GV window 2. So what it should mean is that it just jumps between appearing and disappearing. So that's all nice and neat now. And then finally, what I need to do is I need to get Santa to appear when all of these things have been essentially clicked. So when all the lights are out. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go onto the Santa sleigh, and I am going to go onto the visible property of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, actually, if you add up the GV window 1 and GV 2, and if it equals 2, then make him appear. Otherwise, he's not going to be visible. So I'm going to do, I'm going to say sum GV window 1, comma GV window 2 equals 2. Now he should appear at this point, and then if I click on one of these, then it disappears, and then it appears. So that was the idea there. I will need to test this out because I noticed it went black at one point, which was slightly concerning there. So what I can do now is that now works. What I also did, which I think was quite cool, was I also put this huge label in front of everything to make things get darker. So what I did was I got a label, put it onto the screen, got rid of the text, and what I then did on the label, make it a little bit bigger, and I went onto the fill property, and you can see that it's RGBA 0000, and if I make that 1, then it's really, really dark. So if I make it 0.5, then it's not as dark. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at the values and compare that so that we can get we can make it a little bit darker. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, actually, we'll do the same thing again. We'll do sum GV window 1, comma GV window 2. So we'll top those up, and then we'll divide it by something like, let's just say, if we make it too big a number, it will go too high. So let's just divide it by 10, because that means when it's darkest, then it's not that dark. It's pretty dark, but it's not very dark. In fact, let's make it 8. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over everything, but I'm going to send it to the back. Reorder, send to the back. That means that Santa appears more to the front, and also means that we can click on things. What that means I can do now is I can then click on these things, and Santa disappeared, and it gets darker, and it gets much darker on both of those things. And clearly you can extend that further if you want to. So, are you still with me? I hope you're still with me, because the next part of the process is we're going to make this image just fade from nothing into something. And I think it's quite a cool technique to do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change the visibility around a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a timer onto the screen. I'm just going to put it straight onto the screen. So I'm going to go onto the input, and then I'm going to put a timer in, drag it across, pop it down there. You can get to timers from the side here, so you can drag that onto the screen. We won't do that on this occasion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the duration, and to make it 5,000 milliseconds equals 5 seconds. And so what we can do is we can just see that will just tick away for us. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the values here so that they give us so that they make it the transparency correct. So I'm going to go onto the transparency, and you can see that it's 0. So in the end, we want it to be 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say that the transparency is, here we go, is going to be timer 1 dot value over timer 1 dot duration. And it's actually going to be 1 minus that, because once it gets to the end, it'll have a 1. So it needs to be 1 minus. So now it's not visible. But watch what happens here. As it plays, then it becomes visible. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do that same thing. To make this fire, we're going to go onto the start here, and we are going to make that if some GV window 1, comma GV window 2 equals 2. That's good enough for us to be able to get this thing to fire. So what we'll probably find is it'll actually start to fire straight away, because it will actually be true. So it's not quite working yet. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, it is starting to work. So that does actually do what we need it to do, and we can make these different things disappear. So we don't actually need this label here. Strictly speaking, we'll pop that down in the corner. We can change the text on there and get rid of the text so it disappears. We can, in fact, I'm gonna change that. I'm just gonna make it absolutely tiny. I'll make the size on there. If I go onto the size and make it, I don't know, make it 2. So that's pretty small, isn't it? 3, 4, that will do. And then maybe I'll just kind of borrow the the colour there, the fill, and make it this value here, and it's a little bit less visible now. So what that means is that I can now click on this, and you can actually see the timer will be working up in the side here, and then Santa appears. So that's really taken us to the end of this demonstration of how to make this thing work. The one other thing that I would do is I would make the text here change, and I would say that I'd probably do a little formula on here so that the visibility would change, or the text changes. So visible, and I would probably say that if the sum of those two amounts was anything really, if it's not 0, so sum GV window 1, comma GV window 2 equals 0. So it only appears if the lights are all on. So once the lights are all on, but otherwise it all disappears, and Santa appears on the screen. So what I'm going to do now, we've got to the end of that. We could have carried it on with all of the other windows using the same techniques. I'm not going to do that now. That's something for you to do. So what I'm going to do is going to do File, and then I'm going to say Santa is coming to, and I will save that. Save. So that's my app. what I'm going to show you is that I can actually export this. So I can share it within my organization, but you're not in my organization, so I can share that to someone I know though, so someone that's outside my organization. So let's just see if I can share it with Peter. Peter Veenstra, he has actually a guest on my system, so he might be able to get this. I'm going to click share on that and see what happens with that. See if he likes my little app that I've created, and then I'm going to cancel out of that. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to get back onto the I'm going to do save as, and this is quite neat, and I'm going to go onto this computer, and this means I've got a copy of this app on my computer, and that's something that I'm going to be giving to you. So I'm going to go down to the download, Santa is coming too, and then click on save, and then what I can do is I can bring that into the course so that you can consume it. What I've actually done is I brought it onto GitHub. That means that it's now under Santa is Coming. You can go onto there, you can download it, and then you can upload it onto your system. And there is actually a guide as to how to do that process. So if you watch the video on importing apps that you can see here, then you'll be able to learn how to do it. You can also go on to the YouTube Power Apps for Kids channel, and I believe that we have another way of watching it there. So there's the upload process that you can see in this area as well, which is made a little bit easier for you. So that brings us to the end of our little sort of Christmas card that I put together. We didn't use collections in the end. There are so many ways in which you can get to the same end result. This one is there's a bit more labour involved in getting everything right, but it is quite straightforward for you to understand. I would love to see you create your own things, and do let me know in the chat. There is an ability to kind of communicate in the chat and let me know your thoughts in terms of things that you may have created. So without further ado, I'm just going to wish you a very early Merry Christmas, and I look forward to seeing what you're able to create in the weeks to come. Bye.